Hello everyone, this is Clossi and I'm back with another cool video. I say cool, assuming I'm cool. I like to think I am. But today we're going to talk about why Leela is crazy. So if you've been watching my videos, you will know that I recently did a video on Leela reviewing your games on OGS. And recently I had a lesson with someone and one of their games that they had reviewed was actually one that Leela went over as well, and we actually looked at the stuff that Leela talked about at the end, and he basically said, can you learn from this, is this a good idea, etc. And let me just tell you that Leela is a little bit crazy, guys, and I mean crazy good. I don't mean crazy as in what the crap is this. I mean crazy as in I started, what the crap is this, and then I looked at the variation and was like, oh my gosh, Leela's too good for me. So let's talk about that for a second. So let's go ahead and start off with this situation here. I was saying that black or white should have made a base and everything because it's a little bit good for white to have a base here and black extends. It said white played over here and now black played inside here and got two weak groups. We can go ahead and look how that went. And we talked about all of this and what was good, what was bad, etc. And we got to this point right here. So right here, I recommended, since this one had a base, to consider jumping up or something or playing on the weak group. I said I really wanted to play this move, but because there's a cut here, I thought this would not help your main group, which I thought was the bigger issue. And I said I didn't like this move because this just felt bad because black just pushes through. It just feels like it's a good exchange for black to play this. So I said I probably don't prefer this move. Maybe a jump would be better or something like that to help your weak group rather than simply playing this move and letting black just push through you. In the game, black played here. But then we looked at Leela and we saw that Leela said that this move was good, and this was my instinct, but I was like, this is not good because when you read it, there's a cut. And I was like, what does Leela do about this cut? And then we get into this crazy variation. So let me go ahead and click on this variation. So Leela played here, and I was like, but I thought this was bad because of the cut, you know? Getting cut is bad. This creates three weak groups. And Leela said that black would play here. And then you would peep this and then make this exchange and pretty much tanuki the group. And then I got to here and I'm like, okay, here's my question. I understand that that move 3 and 5 is good. That makes complete sense to me. That helps the other weak group and it's good shape for you and it's a good exchanges. But 6 is the move I'm worried about. How can you play 1 when 6 exists? Well, then she played 7, 8, and then 9. And this kind of blew my mind. So what does this do? Well, first off, playing 1 makes this kind of a false eye, and it also doesn't let black get as many forcing moves against this. I thought it created a weak group, and it kind of does because it does create another group that you have to worry about, or another couple stones that you worry about. It also doesn't directly support this. But then I got to thinking, okay, let's assume that 1 is just to put black in bad shape. So that's kind of unsettle your opponent to defend yourself. Fine. 1 by itself, sure. But you also played 3 and 5, which did not help your 4 stones, and I thought the 4 stones were weaker. Especially since I thought that you would get surrounded very, very quickly compared to the other group, which would not get surrounded. Now, when explaining this to my student, I also mentioned that AIs, like AlphaGo and Leela, etc., all the strong AIs, they usually prefer attacking over defending. But they can only do this because they have insanely good reading. Whereas I always teach the opposite. I teach defend before you attack, so that way you don't end up in a bad position where you lose Sente and then you end up responding to your opponent too much, or you tanuki weak groups too often and then you end up dying. So in order to make the human have a higher winner percentage rather than the AI, the human who has not nearly as good reading, especially at the Q level, which is what I teach, I recommend defending your weak groups first, and only when you get to like 5 down plus do you start worrying about attacking before defending, and you should only do that if you read everything and you have really good reading. Otherwise, not defending your groups is too high of a risk, and I think that will decrease your win percentage as a human player, even if the AI thinks it's better, just because it's simply harder to do, and you want to make the game as easy as possible for you to win. That was my argument. That's my whole justification for why defending is better than attacking for a human rather than an AI who can read insanely. Now, this, I think, is a good example of that, because once you play 9, I did not see 9 at all. I didn't really see the 7-9 combination. But what 9 does is pretty much make a touching battle where touching usually makes both sides stronger. So what that means is both black and white should get stronger here. When you say that, that by definition says that this group is not as weak as I pretty much thought it was. So it is a group that's not going to really die, and black's probably going to get a little bit of profit right here, but not so much that it's unmanageable. It is a little good for black locally, but white got 5, which is going to be very good for white locally up here. So globally, the exchange of 3 and 5 is much better than defending directly because it's much more active. It gets more points. It gets more influence. It does more things for you, whereas just defending was just defending, and black had the initiative and pretty much control of the board. But I thought that was okay because, you know, you had 2 weak groups. That's probably what should happen. But AIs are insane at reading and came up with this fantastic combination of 7 and 9 to basically say this group is not as weak as it looks, as it appears, because of this variation right here, this exact variation, and it went into some more variations, and if I analyze this even more, then the AI could actually show me more variations, continuations of this. But the gist of this is pretty much because of the 7 and 9 combination, this group will be okay. It will not die. So if it will not die because it won't get completely surrounded, then all you're risking is some local points. And if you're risking local points, then that's a value that you can argue is smaller than the exchange you'll get at 5, where you're gaining local points or you're gaining some control of the board. So not only did one unsettle this, so that way this group is stronger because this group is not alive, the touch at 9 creates a sort of leaning defense kind of thing. So that way this encourages a response, which encourages another response, or it encourages a response where you can get out some more. And then when you get out, you can see that this group, because of 1, is also weak, which in turn makes this group not really severely attackable. So you can Tanuki and play 5. Leela kind of read all that and made that almost perfect judgment that you could do that. But man, could I not do that. Not in my best day could I make this judgment call and reading call. And so I told my student, yes, technically 1 and 5 is technically better than my recommendation of just jumping and defending your weak group. But I think this is backed up by very, very accurate reading and not applicable at this level, which the level was 7Q. And I was like, this I don't think is applicable at 7Q. So I don't think you should learn from this. Just know that Leela's super strong and that Leela's going to be better than you. But can you apply this in your own games? At 7Q, I would like to argue no. Even if this is the correct answer, I think it's not the best thing to do because it's just so hard. This is why reading is so important, and this is why Koreans really focused on reading so much, is because you can justify everything with reading. You can justify any strategy, any Tanuki with very accurate reading. But at the end, I did go back and tell him that probably the bigger lesson here is that you shouldn't have gotten 2 weak groups in the first place. Leela's kind of graph kind of agreed with me. It's not a perfect answer, but it was my recommendation to him at the time, was just don't get 2 weak groups in the opening. It's unnecessary, and you could have just simply no-bead and jump back, and that was good enough for you, and I thought this was a good result for white. That was my recommendation in the game, but I just wanted to share with you guys how crazy Leela is. Like, this type of stuff, I know a lot of people love doing AI reviews, and I can say that there's a lot of cool things to see in the AI reviews, but you got to really understand the difference between things you should take from the AI reviews and things you should not. Things that require very, very high-level reading unless you're like trying to be 7-Don or something, I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't even take that. I would take the overall concepts of probably I shouldn't have got a weak group in the first place, rather than how could I play this super insane sequence to get out of this situation. I don't think that's nearly as important for an amateur to learn from as the overall concept is, which you have to be very careful with AI reviews because they don't tell you their reasoning. They just show you moves that they think are better, and pretty much they're right. But you have to understand why they're better, and can you apply that in your own games. So this is why I want to say that Leela is crazy, and really be careful when reviewing with her. But with that being said, as a little side note, I want to talk about this situation up top. So what is happening is this group is surrounded, and they're just playing endgame right now, and this situation kind of came up. You can see that some crazy stuff kind of happened. But I believe is here, this move, when Black played this connection, the graph jumped into White's, from it being like 100% or 99 to 100% victory for Black to being like a 50% chance for Black to win. It was a huge percentage jump. And I say that arbitrarily. It was like a really small little graph, so it might have been like, it was anywhere from like 20 to 40, maybe 20 to 50%. It was hard to tell with such a small graph, but it was a very significant jump, and I was like, I thought the game was over. What did I miss right here? Because I got to this point, and I was like, no, Black's way ahead. And then there was a big jump, and I was like, what did I miss? And it was this move. And when I got here, I did see what the AI recommended, but what I didn't see was the end of the variation. So what the AI recommended was actually this move. And I did consider this move, but I was like, oh, that doesn't work. And then I read. And I read and then looked at the AI variation and read some more to double check that I understood it. And I realized something. And that was that this common variation that I just assumed was good for Black and didn't work for White actually works for White. Because in this case, because of this move, this whole group is cut off and White can start a ko. And there's no move that Black can do that this is not a ko because of that. So there's no move that Black can do where this is not a ko for Black's death. And I didn't see that because normally it's like, oh, you can't do this because, you know, you connect and die. Or if you do this, then there's usually a double Atari somewhere, but in this case, there's not. And I didn't really consider 5. I kind of just read 1 to 4 at a glance when I was talking and reviewing and everything, because I don't really read this in depth when I'm reviewing. I'm just kind of saying what are the big mistakes, what is the big problems, etc. What are the basics. And this kind of like in-depth reading that I think is way too hard for a 7Q, I don't do. And so when Leela pointed this out, I was very interested. So we looked at it together, and I was like, holy crap, look at this ko. We both missed it. And it's just stuff like this. This maybe you could learn from Leela, like these types of Tsuji shapes, these types of things you can look out for. This is something I would probably take from Leela and say, oh, next time I see a double Hane, I'm going to remember that there might, not always, but might be a ko here. And if they get cut off, then that coexists, this might be a great way to come back in a losing game. So this was huge. This is this entire group, which means that White should not have, or Black should not have connected here. Black should have fixed here just to prevent the ko, and Black's way ahead. And there's no issue. So I completely missed this. He completely missed this, but Leela did not. And we saw that this, even though it looks like an obvious move just for a point, it was in-game. We were doing in-game. I thought this was in-game. Even though this is really obvious for a point, this was so much better, and that I found very fascinating as well. So the Leela reviews, I'm finding a lot of fun, but be very careful with them, guys. I cannot stress enough that you need to be careful with these Leela reviews. They're great. There's a lot to learn from them and a lot of cool variations, but only take what you can apply from your games. Don't go crazy trying all this crazy crap that Leela's showing you if you don't have the reading to back it up. Leela is like super, super strong and has very crazy accurate reading, and I don't recommend trying that until your reading is like on a very high level, or at least at a level where you can understand and actually apply. Like this one, I think the reading is simple enough that you can maybe apply it in your games. But way earlier, the earlier example, the reading was just way too high level, and I don't recommend trying to do that in your own games until you get to a very, very high level, and only take the variations with a grain of salt, because you can't fully understand them. It's not like Leela's explaining the moves to you perfectly with her understanding. She's just showing you a variation, and it's great, but be careful, guys. Anyway, that was my little pretty much Clossi talk today, I guess. I don't know if this is a Clossi talk, Clossi review. It's not really a review, more like just talking about how crazy Leela is. So that is my Clossi talk for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed that. I just wanted to share this with you. I thought it was very cool and very fascinating, and I thought you guys would get a kick out of it too. So as always, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.